copy the cinematic Vogue lighting setup. Hello everybody, my name is Marco Bagnoli. Today we look at a Vogue commercial where you do like an interview type of scene, and I think the lighting setup that I choose looks pretty good and it's something you can use on a lot of your projects. So we are on the stage light location with the red curtains in the background and these typical chair that every photo studio on the whole world has. Why we actually use chairs like this? Because they have a really good height, then they have nothing to lean on. Never choose for interviews when you don't have the possibility to choose a chair where you can lean on, because it will create for most people that they start sagging in, their posture gets bad and doesn't look pleasing on the eyes. Also, it will create less depth when you have something straight behind you. It just looks better when you have something where the person just stands clean in place and is forced to look good. So we start with the backlight and we have this nice curtains in the background, which also give us leading lines on the image. Always try to put your actor in some place where we have leading lines, because we want the audience always to have control over them. We want always that the audience looks at the place that we want. And this is the reason we try to make lines and curves that fixes our vision onto the subject that we want. These are two layers. We have curtains in the background, then another layer. And what they did here is they practically just put a top light in the background, could be an aperture lantern or something like this, and lit it straight down so that we get a nice exposure on the background. Because you put your camera where you want your interview to start, your frame, your composition, and then you set the exposure you want. And then you drop your actor. The reason for it, it's much more easy to change the light only on your subject than on the whole background. So fix your exposure after you put your first light and your camera in, and then call your actor. Now, I would light a scene like this. We are on a stage. This means we have room. I would always choose, most of the time, the almost biggest butterfly I can fit. But here, they probably doesn't done it like that, because if you look at her nose shadow, the light is actually pretty hard. It's a bit punchy. It's not that soft. That's the reason I think they probably put an 8x8 butterfly with a grid, and then put your strongest light that you have for your key, an aperture 600D, 1200D, and just blast it onto the actor on a 45-degree angle. And this is your key light. Most of the time, for a lot of locations, this is good. That's enough. You have your key, you have your exposure. If you frame your person correct, it's good. But we are here on a bit of a beauty location. So the next light I would always choose is either way you can use another butterfly, but it gets really tight with all these butterflies in location. So we'll just use a combo stand with a junior boom and put an aperture 600D with a 150 light dome as a beauty dish type light. So just above the camera and fills in the shadows so that we control the contrast on our actor's face, because sometimes we want it really dramatic, really contrasty, and sometimes we want it just soft and not that contrasty with the same fill ratio on each side of the face. As you can see, both sides of a face actually look pretty similar. Then it's for a lot of situations, I told you, backlight is not necessary anymore. When you place the character the right way, on the right location, it looks good, even though when you don't have a backlight. But in a situation like this, where it should feel like theater-like location and looks really polished, I would put a longer light, like Sky Panel 120 with a softbox, just across near the edge of the frame, and light her body with it. Creates a nice hair light and wraps around her body and gives a little bit of extra separation. Then in DaVinci Resolve, I also like to really darken the corners. In a scenario like this, you don't actually need what's here. That the concept that it's there, it's okay. But now we put such a strong vignette also with our lighting setup that we can just black it out, and our focus on the actor just improved with it. This is a close-up from a different scene, but you can actually see here that we have this butterfly from the side and this round fill light, and this combination of these two lights you can use for 80% of your shots that has a person in it, because it's very versatile, it always looks good, and you have a lot of control, and it's pretty much decent movable. If you maybe go indoors a little bit smaller with an 6x6, or use this nice new Godox F600B lights that are already in this quadratic shape and are very narrow. You can fit it in a lot of places in combination with your beauty dish light. You get a lot of cool looks. Just have to choose what fill ratio you want at the end of the day. So that's probably the same location but without the red background. And as you can see, it looks pretty similar. And the lighting setup is actually, I think, the same. The only thing they changed now is they exposed differently. They put her skin a little bit higher, a little bit more punchy, more fill. As you can see, we still have this typical beauty dish nose shadow, but it's really fading away because we have this really soft source. The only difference I do sometime when I'm going for a close-up, I would put another diffusion in between, a bigger one or a thicker one, because now we have the space. Now we can maybe do a book light or something like that, but I don't think that is what they done here. What they could done is they did more of exposure on the beauty dish, because it now looks very clean across her face. Just like a light mask that you put on her face that wraps nicely around her. Also the backlight really shines great now. It looks just good. You still have the feeling, but with the beauty dish most of the time you don't have the problem. But a lot of models complain when their eye sockets get really dark and black, even though you use a soft beauty-like lighting. The solution for this is always just white reflector nearly the edge of the frame to fill in these lights. You can use the backlight and just bounce it back, but try to not let any light under the chin. So this is the no-go area, because these shadows under the chin is what creates depth when you're doing a beauty-like type shot. So try to really concentrate only bouncing the light back into the face. When you want a little bit more shape across her cheeks, you can put negative fill on this side and get as close as possible. This will create a bit better shape on her face when you lost control over your shadows. So if you enjoyed this video, I really would appreciate a subscription from you. My name is Marco Bagnoli and I'll see you next time.